Hello and welcome to today's video. This is my official August wrap up. I'll be talking about all the books that I read during August. A bit of a different setup, bit of a weird vibe, I'm well aware. This is already late and they're in a heat wave, so unfortunately the only place that I can just comfortably sit is in the living room with the fan on, with the window open. I'm hoping that the sound isn't going to be too bad, but I really don't know, to be perfectly honest. I'm guessing that this is not going to be up to like usual wrap up standards, but I can still tell you about all the books that I've read and we can still hopefully have a good time. So yeah, let's just get into it. In August I read 13 books, which I think is fairly decent. Like, I'm pretty happy with that. It's a good amount, but a lot of them were rereads that I was listening to on audio whilst doing DIY. So yes, the amount that I read is great. I would rather them have been new books, but honestly, like, the ones that I was reading on audio were just rereads. So let's talk about them in order of rereads first, because I'm literally hardly going to talk about them. They're all very popular books that I've read before, and then we'll talk about all the books that I've read new. So this month I reread 6 books, 5 of them in one series and 1 in a different one. So the 5 books in the one series that I reread were the ACOTAR books. So we've got A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flame. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. I really enjoy all of these. Upon another reread, I don't think I'll always reread A Court of Frost and Starlight, because it just isn't as good and isn't as fun as the rest of them. But I had a really good time. I really like rereading this series, and I really like rereading it on audio as well. I think the next time I reread it, I will probably try the dramatised audio versions that they have, where it's like full cast and full like audio effects. So I might give that a go, but the like normal average audiobooks are also really good for this, and I find them really easy to follow along with. So yeah, if you've never heard of this series before, we follow Feyre and she kills a Fae, and for punishment for that gets taken to the Fae realms and has to figure life out. That is the very basics of it. It expands as we go through each book, and we don't even just follow Feyre in every book. So yeah, that is just kind of the vibes we're going with, and that is what happens. So yeah, that's that. Reread them, had a good time. It's the perfect sort of audiobooks to listen to whilst doing DIY, because they're just easy. I know them, I know the story, I know what's going on. Chill times. And the other one that I reread was A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. This is the second book in the From Blood and Ash series. I have read this series before. I feel like I remember it pretty well, but there's new books coming out in this series, and when I thought about picking those new books up, I didn't feel like I remembered enough to pick them up. So I don't think the new book comes out till like January, February time, something like that. I'll put the actual date here because I really can't remember it. But yeah, just casually in the background I'm going to be rereading these when I get the chance. I'm doing less DIY now than I was, so I probably won't get through them that quickly, but these are just super easy audiobooks to listen to. Good time, enjoy the world, enjoy what's going on. I think I gave this 4.5 stars in the end, I think. Oh no, 4 stars. So yeah, in this same world, in this same like world setup that we have, there's 2 series. I prefer the other series, the not From Blood Dash series, the Flesh and Fire series. No, it's not Flesh and Fire because this one's called Flesh and Fire. Whatever the other series is called, I really like that one and do think I prefer that one quite a lot. But these are also fun. There we go. Okay, so on to the other books that I've ended up reading during August. First of all, I read a book called Queen of Roses. This was an e-arc that I had, but I did also later find out that it was on Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was interesting. I really enjoyed the setup, I really enjoyed the world, and our characters were fine. It's an Arthurian retelling with like a fantasy and a lot of fantasy elements. It was interesting, it was good, and the thing is, I also read the sequel, and I don't know if I'll carry on after the sequel. After this first book, I was extremely excited to continue on with the world. I had a lot of high hopes, and it does seem good. I think you do probably need a bit more base knowledge of Arthurian legend going into it than I personally had, because there were points, and this is kind of like the only downside of the world for me, was there were points where characters were interacting and these were like names that I recognised because like I know tiny little bits, as in I watched the BBC TV show Merlin growing up, so you know I recognise some of the names. I didn't know if that was relevant to the story or if I needed to be paying closer attention to that, and I just feel like I should have been able to pick out a bit more of the like actual Arthurian retelling, and I couldn't really do that, to be honest. So yeah, that was kind of the only downside, but I did really enjoy it and I had a good time. I also read Court of Claws, which is the second book in the series. I gave this one a 3.5. It just wasn't as good as the first one. So I guess the basic way to say it is I 100% understand that a lot of problems in books when it comes to like a fantasy romance type thing, you know, there is often miscommunication, and I get that, you know, like it's annoying, but like I can get a little bit of it. But I don't even think the problems in this came from miscommunication. They just came from lack of communication. Like there was just no communication whatsoever. We also only saw from like one character's POV until the very last chapter, and it felt like it was missing other point of views by the time I got to this one. I think when you are only following something, when you are only exploring this new world through one character, that character needs to be intrigued enough and wanting to learn enough to like keep you learning about the world and keep you understanding the world, and our main character didn't do that. Like there wasn't really the exploration of what was happening here and there. All of the information came from like the character just being told by these random people and stuff, and it was like I wanted more. I wanted to understand the world more. I wanted more from the character, and I feel like this book could have really been like elevated and felt a lot better if it was more puppy OV. So yeah, only 3.5 stars unfortunately. And then completely unrelated to that series, for book one of another series, is Court of Shadows. I gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I was actually shockingly surprised. It's just a random one that I found on Kindle Unlimited. Like all of my nighttime reading lately is like Kindle reading, because that's the only way that I can read like late into the night, not have a headache and not wake my boyfriend up. So like, you know, I am really exploring Kindle Unlimited and finding books, and I'm finding, you know, quite a lot of hits, but there's also quite a lot of misses. There are quite a lot of books that, you know, you read 3 or 4 chapters of and you're like, you know what, this probably isn't for me, this isn't it. But I'm also finding some hits, and this is one of them. I'm worried because it is part of the series, it's part of quite a large series, and I'm worried that the rest of the books won't like live up to the first one. But I had a lot of fun with this first one. It was essentially our main character gets spotted by a type of god, and you know, our main character, what she is like illegal in the world. It's set in like London, but it's set in a London where like there was like a big magical war, and like magic is controlled by this one group of people, and she essentially gets into a competition where she's competing to become one of these gods, because that's the only way that she can like legally live there and be a part of this world. It's a bit complicated. There's lots of like, you know, she doesn't necessarily want this, it's just kind of like happens. But there's also a bigger story. We learn a lot about our main character's past. We learn a lot about kind of like how the world works and what we're getting into. And it's also a fantasy romance, so of course, you know, she has to have a trainer, and that trainer needs to be attractive and interesting. So yeah, it was a fun time. I really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. I will continue on with the series. I'm just worried they're not going to live up and be as good. Then I also read Mooncakes. This is a very lovely graphic novel about a witch and a werewolf. It's very, very pretty imagery throughout. Like, there's just the first few pages, and it was a really lovely story. I gave it 5 stars. I do wish this was longer, but it didn't need to be longer. Like, I wish it was longer because it was such a lovely time just like exploring this world and exploring these characters, but it really got the entire story across, an entire plot line across, like very interesting, cool things. There's a lot of representation in this book as well, like as like a nice added bonus, but the story itself is just really cute and lovely. It kind of reminds me, not in like fantasy like world sense, but just in the way the story plays out, it kind of reminds me of the Tea Dragon Society books, just in the way that like these things that are going on are very serious. We do really need to solve them, we do really need to figure them out, but every way that we figure stuff out is still very heartwarming and very endearing. And even though, you know, if this was like an adult novel, these things might end in all-out war, in this really lovely sweet graphic novel it is much nicer, much like, you know, just more lovely ways of solving these problems. So in that sense it does remind me of that series in the same way that like they solve their problems. So yeah, would 100% recommend. It was lovely. Then also on Kindle I read Skeleton Song. This is book like 7.7 I think it is in the Wayward Children series. It's like a very short little 30ish page novella. It's very small, very tiny, but it's really, really good. It was, if you've read the Wayward Children series, there's a character that I think we meet in the first book called Christopher, and this is essentially Christopher's backstory, which I guess means that we're not getting a full length novel. Well, are these novels? They're novellas anyway, so this is just like a short story, but I guess we're not getting a full length novella explaining Christopher's world and looking at like his backstory, but we do get this very short little novella, and it was really lovely. I gave it 4 stars. Like, it didn't do anything amazing. I'm glad I have the knowledge and have the backstory, and I'm very like happy that I have that. I do think it could on a reread change how I see the character, but yeah, overall just a lovely addition to the world that I'm very happy I read. I don't think it added anything to the plot, but it has added to the character. And then 2 more books left, both of which I read for a video that will be coming out in 1 or 2 days time. Once it is out I'll link it up above, but this was a video where I did like an ultimate book video and we go book shopping then read the book. So the first book I read was Serious Concerns. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It is a very lovely poetry collection I really enjoyed, and really found quite a few poems in here that were really lovely, really easy to resonate with. They were funny, there were some comedic moments. When I see that poetry has like a humorous aspect, I do often worry, because I don't really have a great sense of humour, and my sense of humour is pretty, I don't know, like not normal. Like I don't enjoy a lot of things that should be funny. Like I just don't know why, but I don't. So I was slightly worried, but I did find a lot of this very easy to, you know, find the humour in and see the funny side of. I didn't really love all of them, that's why it's got a 4 stars. There was a lot of them where it was like, okay, like, I don't know. Obviously these have all been put together in a collection. I do think, you know, I don't know anything about this poet, this author, by the way, so like maybe this is already a thing, but the author, I think if you were to do like a best of, like best poetry of the author, there would be quite a few in here that made it to that, but a lot of them wouldn't. They all make me feel something, and also none of them in here made me emotional in a way that a lot of poetry does, especially, you know, like it is humorous, it is silly, but the subject matter is quite serious and it really is like, you know, bloody annoying. So yeah, I would have liked a bit more, but I'm very happy with what I got. And then last but not least, our final 5 star of the month was Syphilis. This is the first part of a 2-part graphic novel collection, although you can also buy the complete bind up in an edition that looks like this. And yeah, this was great. This really taught me a lot. I learned a lot. Like it's non-fiction, it is a graphic memoir, so it's let's get to the first page. So it's very much, you know, a memoir, but it's told in this like graphic black and white style with these very easy to see, easy to understand illustrations. I would definitely reread this. I learned a lot from this. I think on rereads I will read more than this. It covers subject matter that I didn't know that much about. So essentially, wise, funny and heartbreaking memoir of growing up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. And this part of the memoir, so this is the story of childhood, it really does show like the story of growing up. Like this person is, I don't know, maybe 6 or something in the start of it, like very, very young. And it feels like it kind of ends in like teenage years, so it really is like a a very realistic look at just like everyday life. Like a lot of this is just everyday life, but it's absolutely crazy that this is the norm for so many people and was the norm for so many people, and that everyday life looks like this. Like it was very, I don't even know what the right word is. Like it was crazy is not the right word, but like reading this and being like this is everyday life for so many people. It was very, obviously you know it, but I feel like reading it from someone's perspective who's gone through it and like has been through it is a completely different thing. And yeah, it was very eye-opening, I guess. I don't know if eye-opening is even the right word, because like, you know it, like people know that like a lot of places and people around the world have to live these, you know, not great to horrible lives, and somewhere along that spectrum. But yeah, reading it from someone's perspective who lived through it was like, yeah, a lot of things in here were just normal, completely normal, like written in the eyes of a child going through this stuff. But as an adult reading this, it's like this should not be normal for anyone. Like these things that you're living through, no one should have to live through. This is crazy. So yeah, that is our very final book. So yeah, probably a bit of a shorter video because I am already boiling, not doing great in this UK heat wave. Hopefully this video will be up within a day or two, and yeah, you'll understand the pain if you are from the UK, because this heat wave is still meant to last another 5 days. But yes, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Do give it a like if you did like it, subscribe down below if you'd like to see more content like this. Let me know in the comments your favourite book of August, or if you've read any of these books and also enjoyed them. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.